Ember never expected anyone to really notice her. To the men who worked at Sullivan's auto garage, she was just the skinny teenage girl in oversized coveralls, with her hair tied in a messy bun and streaks of grease on her cheeks. She'd grown up here, in the small town that barely had a gas station, let alone luxury cars. The guys called her the girl in grease, half jokingly, half dismissively. She didn't mind. They didn't know she spent every night studying engines no one in this dusty town ever saw. Her uncle, Mr. Sullivan, was kind enough but old-fashioned. He thought her place was handing wrenches and sweeping floors, while the real mechanics did the work. She didn't argue. She watched and listened. When a big job came in, a busted truck, a stubborn engine, an old pickup that coughed more than it roared, she watched how they worked and how they sometimes missed the tiny things that really mattered. But she never said anything. Nobody asked her. On an ordinary Tuesday afternoon, as the sun baked the oil-stained concrete outside, a sudden roar made the walls shake. A flatbed rolled up, carrying something none of them had ever seen in person. A cherry-red McLaren, sleek as a bullet, shining so bright it looked out of place surrounded by rusty pickups and old Chevys. The driver hopped out, waving his clipboard. Right behind him was a young man in designer sunglasses, 2 white sneakers, and an attitude that leaked into every word he spoke. "This piece of junk died on the highway," he snapped, not bothering to hide the scorn in his voice. "It's brand new. No one knows what's wrong with it. I need it fixed before my shoot this weekend. Think you guys can handle that?" The older mechanics glanced at each other. They didn't want to look like they'd never touched a machine like this, but the truth was written all over their faces. Mr. Sullivan tried to reassure the customer with a laugh, promising they'd figure it out. The rich kid just shrugged, as if daring them to try. Ember stood in the corner, pretending to sweep, but her eyes locked on the McLaren. She could feel her heart pounding. She'd read about this model, studied its blueprints late at night under her blanket while everyone slept. She knew how the hybrid engine worked, how sensitive its wiring was, how even the smallest glitch could shut it down completely. The idea of it thrilled her. This was the kind of machine she dreamed of fixing, not old pickups dripping oil on the shop floor. The next 2 days were chaos. The crew took turns poking under the hood, hooking up diagnostics, scratching their heads. Mr. Sullivan called an old friend in the city for advice, but nothing worked. The McLaren just sat there, mocking them with its silence. The owner dropped by twice a day, each time more irritated, tossing careless insults at the men fumbling with his prized car. Ember watched them from the shadows. Every night when they locked up, she lingered behind, pretending to organize tools until the lights dimmed and the garage fell quiet, except for the hum of the old fridge in the corner. She'd slip behind the wheel, studying the displays, feeling the steering wheel under her small, greasy hands. Late on the 3rd night, she sat in the driver's seat, laptop balanced on her knees. She had hooked up an old scanner she'd bought second-hand at a pawn shop. Her fingers flew over the keys, cross-checking codes she knew the guys had skipped over. She traced wiring diagrams on a crumpled printout, comparing every connection. Then she spotted it, a tiny note she'd once read in an online forum about a sensor relay that sometimes failed on this exact model. A glitch so small most people ignored it, blaming the bigger, shinier parts. Her hands trembled as she popped the hood again, flashlight wedged between her teeth. She crawled half inside the engine bay, careful not to scratch the pristine panels. She found the connector, flicked it loose, blew the dust from it, and resoldered a pin so fine it looked like a hair. Her eyes burned from lack of sleep, but her mind buzzed with adrenaline. She reconnected everything, wiped her hands, slid back behind the wheel. Amber took a deep breath, pressed the start button, and held it. The world seemed to hold its breath with her. And then, like a sleeping beast startled awake, the McLaren rumbled to life. Its deep, smooth growl filled the garage, bouncing off the walls like thunder. Amber sat there, heart pounding so loud she thought it might drown out the engine. She'd done it. The girl in Greece, invisible by day, had just brought a machine worth more than her uncle's whole shop back to life in the dead of night. The next morning, the garage was alive before sunrise. Word had spread quickly. The McLaren had started, and no one could believe it. The older mechanics stood around it like curious kids at a science fair, scratching their heads and asking each other how it had happened. Mr. Sullivan barked orders, telling them to double-check the diagnostics, but the truth was clear as the bright cherry-red paint. The car was purring like it had never been broken. Amber kept her head down, pretending to sweep the shop floor like she always did. Her heart still raced every time she caught sight of the McLaren's sleek curves, the shine of its flawless bodywork under the flickering shop lights. She could still feel the hum of the engine through her hands from the night before. She half expected someone to accuse her of messing with it, but instead, no one even looked her way. It wasn't until the spoiled owner swaggered back in that the truth threatened to come out. He strutted around the garage, designer sunglasses propped on his forehead like a crown. He ran his hand across the hood and scoffed, "So which one of you geniuses finally figured it out?" Mr. Sullivan cleared his throat, pushing his cap back nervously. "Well, it must have been one of the guys, I suppose. We worked late." The owner's eyes narrowed. "Suppose? You don't even know?" He let out a sharp laugh that echoed off the metal walls. "Typical. Just make sure it stays running until I get back to LA. He turned to leave, but then paused when he saw Amber standing by the workbench, quietly putting away tools. He squinted at her, as if seeing her for the first time. "Hey, grease girl, you do anything besides sweep?" The shop went dead quiet. The other mechanics shifted on their feet, staring at the floor. Amber swallowed the lump in her throat, her fingers tight around the wrench she was placing back in the drawer. She didn't answer, but her silence said enough. The owner smirked. "Figures." He flicked his car keys at Mr. Sullivan, who nearly fumbled them. "I'll be back tonight. Wash it. Don't scratch it." Hours passed. The garage felt different now, like something heavy hung in the air, unspoken but alive. The other mechanics kept glancing at Amber when they thought she wasn't looking. Once or twice, someone almost asked her something, but the words died before they could form. Mr. Sullivan avoided her eyes altogether. When the sun dipped behind the dusty rooftops, the owner returned with two men in tailored suits, one holding a small camera. "I'm getting a picture for my social," he announced. "Got to show the world how these country mechanics saved my shoot." He posed by the McLaren, fake smiling while the camera snapped away. Then, as if on a whim, he called, "Hey, grease girl, come stand here. Might as well show the whole crew, huh?" Amber froze. Her uncle gave her a stiff nod. Reluctantly, she stepped closer, her coveralls smudged and her hair tied back. She stood behind the car, arms crossed, trying to disappear into the shadows of the garage lights. But the photographer, curious, tilted his lens toward her. "Did you fix it?" he asked quietly, half joking. Before Amber could answer, Mr. Sullivan cut in. "Course not. She just sweeps. She just sweeps." Something cracked in the silence that followed. The owner turned, studying Amber's face. For the first time, his grin slipped. "Wait a second. Did you touch my car?" Amber looked at him. Really looked. She saw the expensive watch, the shiny shoes, the fragile ego hiding behind his perfect smile. And she saw herself, the girl in Greece, the invisible one who had pulled the beast back from the dead when no one else could. She didn't flinch. "Yes, I fixed it." A hush fell over the garage. Even the camera guy lowered his lens. Mr. Sullivan opened his mouth, but no words came out. The owner's lips parted in disbelief, but this time no insults spilled out. Instead, he laughed, a short, stunned bark. "No way. A kid? In coveralls? You think you're funny?" He pulled out his phone, dialed someone, started pacing in front of the McLaren. But no one could take their eyes off Amber anymore. One of the older mechanics stepped forward, scratching his head. "Boss, she ain't lying. We tried everything. We didn't do nothing." She did. It hit the room like a spark in an oil drum. The owner turned slowly, his phone still at his ear, mouth half open. You serious?" Amber held his stare. She didn't smile. She didn't back down. "Check it yourself." For a moment, no one moved. Then the owner barked something into his phone and killed the call. He climbed into the McLaren, slammed the door, hit the ignition. The engine roared to life, the same deep growl that had made Amber's heart leap in the dead of night. He stepped out, eyes wide, all the swagger drained away. The other suits whispered behind him. The camera guy raised his lens again. Amber stood her ground, grease on her hands, pride in her chest. The girl in grease, the girl no one saw, was the only reason the beast purred like new. And in that moment, she knew the town, the garage, and the spoiled rich kid would never forget her name again.